Welcome to my presentation on the governor's pardon in the state of Pennsylvania. For this video and presentation, I hope to convey to you what it's like to experience a governor's pardon, what's the process like to get a governor's pardon, what is the governor's pardon, and again, what it is like to get the governor's pardon. So, let's start with why I care. So, the reason I care about the governor's pardon is because currently my brother is in the process of getting it. It's been a very long and difficult process for him. It's taken a very long time, and it's taken a toll on him, to say the least, because it's basically digging into your past and you're basically trying to get rid of it. And I want to shed some light on what it's like, and just so that people can understand just a little bit what the governor's pardon process is like. So, well, what is it? So, the governor's pardon is a method used to basically expunge your criminal record. It's a way to clear any past criminal convictions you've ever had in your life. And in the state of Pennsylvania, it is the only way to clear any previous criminal convictions. It is, to say the least, it is a long and difficult process, but in the same sense, it's also relatively straightforward. You can break down the process into 6 steps. Those 6 steps are the step 1 being the application. You have to file an application. Step 2 will be background investigation into your criminal history. Step 3 would be notifications of all important individuals that are pertaining to the case, being like victims, former judges, prosecutors. They'll all be updated that this is happening and will be informed that this is happening. Step 4 is the hearing itself, where you will have the chance to plead your case in front of the Board of Pardons. The 5th step will be the Board of Pardons decision on your case, and then the 6th and final step will be the governor's decision on your case for a pardon. So let's go into a little more detail about the first step being the application. It's really basic, but at the same time, you want to make sure you get it right. The application phase is when you basically file for it. You basically get all the paperwork together and you properly file and send it in to the Board of Pardons department, basically. And they will look into, and this is basically the first step. You basically file the paperwork to get the whole process started, and if anything is missing, they will inform you, and once you've been in, and then you have to simply get the information that they request you, and until they have all the information, you will not be considered filed, and you will not be able to move on to the next step, which is the background investigation. So the background investigation is pretty basic. The Board of Pardons will basically notify the Pennsylvania Board of Probation and Parole, and the Board of Probation and Parole will assign an agent to your case. And this agent's job is to investigate the facts, the background information. He's basically gonna look into your entire criminal case and get together all the facts that happened in it. And he'll also call you in for a sort of like an interview type of thing where he'll ask you questions and he'll want you to answer his question and he'll want you to answer those questions. And you have to, if you do not comply with him and provide him like the information, you don't speak with him at all, he'll basically rescind your application and you'll have to start all over again. So after the background investigation is notifications. So in order to receive a hearing, you're going to need at least 2 of the 5 members of the Board of Pardons to vote in favor of even hearing you. So, and once, if you get 2 of the people to vote in favor of hearing you, then they'll notify any interested parties that will be pertaining to your case. This will be like victims if you had, for instance, if you had gotten in trouble with the law for burglary or like thievery or murder. They'll notify victims of what you've done. They'll notify you and any of your representatives. They'll notify the Board of Probation and Parole. They'll notify the district attorney of the court where you received your conviction. They'll inform the president judge of the county where you received your conviction, and they'll also notify the Department of Corrections. And they're basically notifying you of like the date, the time of your hearing. And that leads you to the next step, which is the hearing itself. So the hearing will be in the Supreme Courtroom in Harrisburg. So you're going to have to go to Harrisburg, where you will be given 15 minutes to basically plead your case to the Board of Pardons. And basically the process will look a little bit like this. You, the applicant, will present your case to the Board of Pardons, and then the next step, they'll have witnesses who wish to speak in support of you, and then finally they'll have witnesses who will speak against you. So they'll basically, just to summarize that real quick, you have 15 minutes to plead your case, then people that want to speak in favor of you will go, and then the people that want to speak against you will go. So that's basically how the hearing will go. After the hearing, the Board of Pardons will make their decision. Now, the Board of Pardons will weigh several factors. The nature of your crime, was it a really minor offense, or was it something very extreme like murder? Why the crime occurred, the amount of time that has passed since the crime, the hardships that it created for you. So if you're going to explain how your criminal conviction has affected your life and made it hard for you. They'll also weigh what you've done, have you been a fine, upstanding citizen since then? They'll also look into any public service or good deeds you've done since then, and they'll look into whether you accept responsibility for your actions. So, just to give you a little bit of tell you what the Board of Pardons is basically composed of 5 individuals. You have the Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor, the Pennsylvania Attorney General. There will be a corrections expert. There will be a psychiatrist, and then there will be a victims' rights advocate. And these are basically the people that you will have to plead your case to. So, in certain criminal convictions, you're more likely to get a more favorable response from certain individuals. For instance, if your crime was drug-related and you were really the victim of it in the end, then perhaps the victim's right advocate would look more favorably upon your case. Now, the 6th and final step is basically the governor's decision on the whole thing. This can be very long, because the governor will basically be given a list of all of the applicants that the Board of Pardons had deemed as worthy to receive a pardon. And the governor will see this list, and he basically can pick and choose who he wants to pardon. Now, the governor, this can be a very long process, because there have been points where the governor has gone years without ever doing this. So he has no mandated time frame from when he has to inform you or to basically pardon anybody. You have it again. It is at his complete and total discretion. But if he does pardon you, then you can basically move on to the next step. Then you're basically pardoned. And then, so if the governor approves, then you can file for the expungement petition in the county court to remove your criminal history. And this is pretty basic. You just gotta do the proper paperwork from there, and you're golden. You'll just have to wait for a little bit of time, and you'll have your criminal history expunged. Now, if he denies you, is another thing, because you cannot reapply for 12 months. You have to wait 12 months before you can reapply for a governor's pardon if you've been denied once, and it's 24 months if he denies you a second time. Then you have to wait 24 months to reapply, and then the process kind of just heads at 24. But usually, if you don't succeed on your third try, you're probably not going to get pardoned. So, and the process is so long that even trying it for a fourth time might not be worth it. And another thing is, if you're denied, you also have to show that there was a change in circumstances, that you've brought forward more evidence, or you've shown that you've completely changed a leaf. Like, if the first time you weren't really sincere, you really didn't change, but you've changed since then, that you've really become a better person. You basically have to show that there's a change in circumstances that have happened since then. So now let's just talk about the general length of the process. The process varies from case to case, because it depends on the type of criminal convictions that you're trying to get expunged. Is it multiple criminal convictions? Is it just one? Is it something major? Is it something minor? It's really just depends a lot on the case itself. But rule of thumb is, let's go over it like this. Just ordering your complete criminal history from the Pennsylvania State Police can take upwards to 6 months. And then it can take another 2 or 3 months to gather all of the documentation. And then it can take up to 3 years from the time your application is even submitted for the PA Board of Pardons to even get a chance to look at your case and grant your hearing. It can take at least 3 years. And then the governor is at sole discretion of whether he wants to approve or deny your case. And he can take as long as he wants. I've looked into it. A lot of people are stuck at the governor's decision part, and they're just basically just waiting for whether the governor's ever going to pick them or not. And then this process can take anywhere from can take up to at least 5 years. And that's just on your first go around. Your second and third, this can really start to accumulate. This can be a long time process, and you gotta really make sure you do everything right the first time, because it's a very difficult and long process. It's in all honesty, it's very straightforward, but it's very difficult. Now I'm going to talk a little bit to how it affects you. Now, this part right here is more or less personal, because I have a brother that I mentioned is trying to apply who's basically in the process of a governor's pardon. And he's been in the process for at least, I believe, 4 years now of trying to do this. 3 or 4 years. And I'd say he's about halfway there. I believe he's still trying to get a hearing. And that's the thing. To get the hearing, you need to get the Board of Pardons to look at you and say, okay, we'll hear you. But it's really hard to get the Board of Pardons because they get a ton of pardon requests. And they have a serious backlog. Sometimes that you never get a chance, and there might be only so many hearings, and you only have 15 minutes to even plead your case. It's very painful on your life because this whole process has taken so much out of my brother. I can just feel it. And in his eyes, where I once saw like so much like hope when he was younger and everything, it feels like so much has been taken out of him from this whole process. It's like your whole life is up in the air. You can't make a decision on your future. He wanted to basically take this test for his bank so he could get a promotion. He wasn't even sure he was going to be allowed to take the test because of his criminal conviction. They let him do it because they heard he was in the process of getting a pardon. But he can't get the promotion until he gets the pardon. And that could still be another 4 years until he even gets pardoned. And it's really hard on a person's life. And I just think it's time for something to change. I think something needs to change with this criminal system because my brother's offense, it really wasn't that big, in my opinion. It was to do with he was basically selling pot to a friend of his, and he got caught. And his entire life has just been thrown for an entire loop for this. And I feel like they need to change something with the board of with getting a pardon, because he's changed so much. We had a difficult life growing up, and he's done so much to change since that time from his troubled past. And I just look at him, and I just wonder if it just feels like this whole process just brings more suffering onto people because it forces you to face your past. And I can understand for some offenses that's necessary. But I feel like for some other offenses, minor ones, this process can be very arduous and difficult on someone. And I think they need to do something. There needs to be some way to speed this process up, or at least make it more fair for everybody to get there. I just want to leave that as a kind of a food for thought for you all. And to finish off, I just want to thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy